Six Nations round number 1, folks, concludes this weekend with Ireland taking on England. Always a really spicy game, maybe made a little bit spicier by the fact that England broke their losing run against Ireland in last year's Six Nations with that win at Twickenham. And also we got no Andy Farrell, so there's a little bit of uncertainty around Ireland with Easterby taking over as the kind of interim coach. Can Borthwick catch this Irish side before they are able to get settled? Or will the Irish get back to winning ways against England? We'll go through the squads, some stats, predictions. You guys can let us know your thoughts on how this one is going to go. We'll start with the Irish squad. You feel like the main talking point has to be number 10. I kind of assumed that the safe pick and the kind of interim coach pick would be just to put Jack Crowley back at 10. But Jack Crowley remains on the bench. So it's the youngster Sam Prendergast who's going to get, I don't want to say into the deep end, because the guy had, Simon Easterby talked about it in the press conference, he had a taste of this level of rugby in November. But it's a big thing to be starting a Six Nations match against England. So a lot of pressure on that young man, but these guys tend to thrive off that pressure. But certainly, a big game of this guy's career. He's got a lot of experience around him. Bundee at 12, Gibson-Park's at 9. So he's got some stable heads around him, but it's going to be a big test of that guy's credentials at this level. Apart from him, the front row, Porter, Kelleher and Bealham, I think that's pretty steady as she goes. Remember, no Furlong with that niggling calf injury kind of keeping him out. But the best news for the front row is potentially on the bench with Dan Sheehan back in Irish colours after a lengthy layoff. Remember, we saw him play some phenomenal rugby for Leinster just the other day. Good to see him back and seemingly fit and ready to go. I hope he gets at least kind of half an hour, because he seemed to be good for more than that for his club the other day. The second row has also got a bit of a change. McCarthy taking a head knock in training means he's unavailable. So Tadhg Burns shifted back into the second row alongside James Ryan. And then Ryan Baird, his selection kind of flew under the radar, but that guy's had very little game time. But he's an immediate selection at number 6. He's obviously a big dude. Seems to be good for at least one spinning crazy line breaker game, but for his round the park stuff, he's a big unit. He's certainly another option at line-out time. Van der Flier and Doris are alongside him in the back row. That's pretty steady as she goes. Doris captains the side. Gibson-Park, as I mentioned, at 9 will be, continuing his club thing at international level with Prendergast. You'll be thinking, if you're going to have a guy alongside you as the young 10, having Gibson-Park there is certainly reassuring. And then Aki and Ringrose is the midfield. It's either Aki, Ringrose or Henshaw. How do you line them up? Well, they've gone with Aki and Ringrose with Henshaw to cover the bench role. Simon needs to be talked about. Henshaw's inclusion on the bench, he wants him to bring some physicality. There's no Frawley in the squad this week. So, I guess with Crowley on the bench, Henshaw's point of difference is the physical game. Mack Hansen continues on the right wing, so there's no spot for Nash, which is tough, but this Irish squad has tended in recent years to go with the incumbent guys in most cases. So Mack Hansen continues on in that role. James Lowe also got some minutes under his belt for Leinster the other day. He continues on the left wing, and then Hugo Keenan is there at fullback. So she's pretty steady. The Prendergast call is the biggest one, and then, as I said, it went under the radar, but Ryan Baird straight back into the starting lineup is also an interesting one. Sheehan, as I mentioned, on the bench alongside Healy and Clarkson. There's a big difference in experience between Healy and Clarkson, but good to see Thomas Clarkson getting some more game time at test level. Iain Henderson is there, Jack Conan is there, and then 3 backs, Conor Murray, Jack Crowley, and Robbie Henshaw, as I mentioned. So it is a proper mix of youth and experience for the Irish, and as I said, missing the likes of Furlong, McCarthy, and others with injuries. For England, Steve Borthwick always gets a lot of stick for being boring, but he's picked Caden Murley, which I'm excited about, because that guy is a proper weapon attacking machine. He's also in the deep end on that left wing, because he's been in the England squad a couple of times but never managed to get a cap, but he is finally given a chance to shine on that left wing. So I will be curious to see how they go with him, because he's got some real wheels. If they kick balls past the Irish backfield, this guy will be certainly chasing them. But we'll start with the front row. Genge, Cowan-Dickie and Stewart. Remember, there's no Jamie George. He's sitting out with injury also. So Cowan-Dickie gets promoted from the bench role he played last time England played, back in November. And Theo Dan comes in as the replacement hooker. The second row of new captain Maro Tadhg alongside George Mutton is a very familiar one from last year. Maro played every minute of every game as the loose head lock for England last year, so he's going to get even more responsibility as captain. And then a double Curry. Tom Curry and Ben Curry. Will any of the commentators use this new Twindaloo? Well, I've not seen it before. I'm not sure if people have talked about it for their club. But, yeah, will any of the commentators use that phrasing for these two guys? The two Curries. There's a bunch of tackles. Certainly a bunch of tackles. I mean, then Ben Earl's your number 8 as well. So you've basically got 3 open sides for the England back row. It's maybe a bit tough on Tom Willis. He's on the bench. You might have thought to balance out all the flankers, you chuck Tom Willis in there, but no, they've gone with the 2 Curries and the 1 Earl. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to be a big-time threat at the breakdown. You got to wonder if they are going to kick, compete over the catcher, and also get Stewart to chase the high balls, because that looks what they might do based on the lineup. Alex Mitchell's there at 9. I think that's a bit of good news for England. He seems to be their most kind of a dangerous 9 in terms of his distribution and his sniping game. Marcus Smith, there was a bit of talk of him potentially going to 15, but no, he gets to continue on at 10. Henry Slade, Ollie Lawrence have that flexible relationship in the midfield. I say flexible because they certainly swap positions a decent amount during game time. Murley, as I mentioned, on the left wing. Tommy Freeman is one of the consistent guys on the right, and then Freddie Stewart, in the absence of Furbank, who is injured, as I mentioned, he is selected at 15. And if you're going to play him, you might as well kick him high balls. So that's his unique point of difference, right? Theo Dan, Finn Baxter, and Joe Hayes, those are your front row replacements. Ollie Chesham also back in England colours is a bit of good news. Cunningham-South is on the bench alongside Tom Willis. So it's the 6-2 split for England, only the 2 backs and Harry Randall and Finn Smith. But you do have a bunch of guys who are pretty flexible in the jerseys. They can play if there were to be any guys injured. Stats-wise, Ireland are a very, very possession-based team. At least they were last year. The games they lost tended to be the games where they weren't able to boss the possession. So that'll be something that they will want to rectify in this game. They'll want to get the ball, keep it away from England, and tire them out, because they're usually very good at that. The fourth quarter, not always, but the fourth quarter tends to be an area for Ireland to shine. They go through so many phases, make you make so many tackles that by the fourth quarter, you're knackered and you find it hard. Like in last year's Six Nations Championship, Ireland scored 45 points in the final quarter and conceded 12. I think in the first 3 games, they conceded none in the final quarter. So it's been a real area of strength. You can be in it, but you've got to be in it in those final 20. England, high kicking team. That's part of the reason Borthwick gets a bit of stick. They kick 30 plus times a game on average last year. That's even when they've got the ball. They are quite happy to play territory. So that gives them this reputation for being dull. However, last year against Ireland, where they won, was actually the game where they didn't kick it that much. And they only kicked like 23 times. And they passed more, they offloaded more, and they had 52% possession, which is a magic number to get against Ireland, because Ireland usually keeps you in the 40s or less. So, yeah, 9 offloads in last year's game against Ireland is more than their normal 4. So England changed it up for Ireland last year, and it seemed to do a trick. Can they pull that trick off 2 years in a row? We'll have to see. As I mentioned, the recent record between the sides is 4-1. It is lopsided, but the most recent one is that England win. The last time England won at Dublin, though, is back in 2019, which is a wee while ago. Average score across the last 5 games is 29-16, so it has been relatively comfortable for the Irish. They are predicted to win. Not that comfortably, though. The bookies are saying Ireland by 6, which is not that much. The Rugby Forecast algorithm is a little bit more emphatic, saying by 16, because Ireland's home form, I think, tends to be very good, but we will see. Will it be closer to the 6 or the 16? You guys let us know what you reckon. Ben O'Keefe, the Kiwi, is the referee for this one on at Dublin. 4:45 is the local kickoff time. That's 5:45 for those of us here in NZ in the morning. So not the greatest kickoff time, but better than the game before it. If you want some gear, British and Irish Lions gear, check the British and Irish Lions store. They're an affiliate of the channel. Likewise, the England Rugby store, we're having a sale on England Rugby Gear ahead of the Six Nations. Check that link out as well if you want yourself some rugby gear. I like rugby gear, so why not add to your collection if you've got some. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts on this one. Can you see England catching Ireland without Andy Farrell, or do you think Ireland at home are just going to be too good as they usually are? You guys take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.